Hi, Skylar here from the Mint Change You Can Wear. Thanks for picking up the book Forge Coinry Making for Beginners. This is the first book in the Forge series. This video is meant to be a tutorial for the book. And what we're going to do in this video is walk you through the basic process of making a coin ring out of a quarter. We're starting with quarters because they're the most inexpensive coin and the easiest to produce. So watch the video all the way through once, get your workstation and your tools all gathered, and then sit down with the book and then start with the first step. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we need to talk about is putting a hole in our coin. In this case, I'm going to be using a quarter. You can go ahead and use a $50 or any other coin basically that you want to. In order to put the hole in this coin, we need to find center first. So all it takes is a coin, a Sharpie, and something to rest your Sharpie on that's about the right thickness. So basically we're just going to go ahead and put our coin against here and then put our Sharpie, rest it against there nice and steady, and then spin the coin around. And that'll give us a perfectly centered mark to start with. So what we need is a punch and then some sort of a hammer. And once we have it more or less centered, we go ahead and just give it a light smack with the hammer. So all that does is produces a small divot in the coin like that, and that's just going to give us something for our drill bit to stay centered on so it doesn't wander as we start to drill. So in order to be able to drill this coin out, we're going to need to hold it nice and steady and not allowing it to spin. So what I use for that is just a regular old vise, and I put a couple blocks of wood, taped them into the jaws, so that way you're not going to mar up your coin as you're holding it. So basically, to set up your vise, all you need to do is bolt it to the table. Once you have it bolted to the table, get yourself a couple strips of wood about like this. Hardwood's better. If you don't have hardwood, this type of softwood will be okay, but we'll just put it in the vise like that, and we'll just go ahead and tape it in place. And then do that on all sides and you'll be ready to go. So basically just open up the vise, put your coin in there, nice and level, and snug it up. So what I'm going to use to drill the coin out is a regular drill, a cordless drill, a corded drill, whatever works, and a drill bit. In this case I'm going to be using a tapered step bit, but if you don't have one of these, you can use a small drill bit and gradually work your way up to a fatter drill bit, and that's the way you're going to go ahead and drill this out. Don't start off with the biggest drill bit or you're going to have a real mess on your hands. This is just a regular tool that most people have in their homes. If you don't have one, borrow one from a friend. And if you don't have a friend that has one, then maybe you should reevaluate some of your friend choices. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to drilling it. Be very, very careful. It's super hot, so use some pliers or something. And go ahead and quench it in some water just to get the heat off of it. So now we have a 1/2-inch hole in this thing, and I want to go ahead and turn it over and see this rough edge here. We want to get rid of that. And since I have a step bit, I'm just going to run the step bit in it. If you didn't have a step bit, you're going to have to use a file or some sandpaper or something to get rid of that rough stuff on that edge. And you can see it's all cleaned up on both sides. And now what we need to really do is go ahead and check to make sure this thing is center. And we're just going to go ahead and draw a line around the outside to see how we did. Okay, so you can see it's pretty close. We're looking, after we drew that circle around there, we're looking to see how much gap is there, and we're pretty darn close. This is good enough for what we're doing here. And if the hole wasn't perfectly centered, you just go ahead and use a round file to file around until it was even on all sides. You can also use digital calipers to check the walls of the coin all the way around to see if you've got it even or not. But the interesting thing about digital calipers is they cost money. Now we're going to go ahead onto annealing and forging the coin. One other thing we need to do before we start to anneal is to really bevel these edges here front and back to make sure that they're not going to split on us as we start to forge the ring. So we can use either a file or even rub some sandpaper in there just to round those edges over. And so we'll do that real quick and then we'll go ahead and forge next. So now we're going to go ahead and anneal this coin. So basically what annealing is heating up a coin until it gets to about a dull red, and then quenching it in water, and then that's going to make the coin soft and malleable and more workable, so that way we don't split it or have a hard time actually forging it. And the way we do that is to use a propane torch and heat it up that way. So now we're heating up the coin till it's about this red color here. And we're gonna pick it up with some pliers and quench it in this water right here. The quenching just basically cooling it down really quickly, and now it's cool enough to handle. Now our coin is all annealed and ready to start the forging process. That brings us to the two specialty tools that we're going to need to look at now. So on the left hand side we have a steel ring mandrel, and it has ring sizes all up and down it. This is the key element to any coin ring, is this ring, it is a steel mandrel. So I'm going to put a link in the description box below where you can get a ring mandrel like this one. The other thing is this nylon mallet. I got this at Harbor Freight. It's about 10 bucks, and I'll put a link for that also in the description box. So between the two, you have about $25 or less for the two specialty tools. So when we start forging this, we need to put this to where the outside is going to face the right way. And I want to be on the outside of the ring, the state name and the date and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and put that facing up on my ring mandrel. So when I start to forge it, it's going to bend down, and that's going to be on the outside. So just hold on to it with your fingers to keep it from bouncing off, and then we'll slowly start tapping on this, and we're going to work it around, and we'll start folding it over and bringing it down this tapered mandrel. So we have it hammered down about this far on the tapered mandrel now, and you can see the angle that it's at. This point we're going to want to take it off, flip it over this way, and finish that forging process. But before we do that, we need to go ahead and re-anneal it again. So now that we're annealed and it's all flipped around on our mandrel, we're ready to start finishing the forging process here. And what we're looking to do is just close this rim all the way against that mandrel, and then we'll be finished. So now we've finished forging it. It's closed up on the steel mandrel, and it's ended up about a size 8.5 or so. And so now we're ready to take it off and finish the ring up. The easiest way to take this off the mandrel, now that we've forged it on there and it's stuck, is just hit it off with the pointy end of your nylon mallet. It'll come right off. Now that we have this coin ring off the mandrel, we need to check these edges for any splits and make sure they're beveled with the sandpaper, so that way it's not rough when you're wearing it. So we'll just put it on the inside, sand it, and then we'll go ahead and do the same thing on the outside. And just make sure you get it to where it's completely rounded off. Now that it's comfortable to wear, we need to start getting rid of this black finish on the coin so it looks nice. So this 4-0 steel wool is ultra fine, and we're gonna rub it on the inside of the coin to get rid of that black. Rub it against this rim right here to get it out of the reeded edge, or the coin edge. And then we're going to finally do the outside. And we want to leave some of that black on there because it makes a nice contrast. So just take off enough to your liking. It's really a personal preference here. So this is what we end up with. There's the date. There's the state name and date that it was incorporated. And there's the date it was minted there. And the only thing we have to do left now, we could leave it like this if we wanted to, but I like to take a jewelry rag and just polish it up a little bit more and give it a little bit of luster. Here's the jewelry wipes that I use. I get these at Walmart. So they're at the jewelry counter, and they look like this after they're used a little bit. They're really inexpensive and just a simple way of finishing up a ring without having to have a Dremel or a lot of polishing equipment. But here it is after polishing with that little rag. And just a lot shinier. And that is pretty much it for the beginner's version of a coin ring. Since we're not using a ring sizer or anything like that, we're really reliant on the hole size to depend what our ring size is going to turn out to. So we're going to look only at the quarter part of the scale. So a 3/8 inch hole punched in a quarter and then hammered down this mandrel that I was using here will produce a 6.5 sized ring. Then if you do a 7/16, it'll be a 6 3/4. Half inch will make a 7.5. I came up with an 8.5 on this one, so it's not a perfect scale. So this scale was a generalization of the mandrel I was using at that time when I made this scale. And at that time my mandrel was rougher because I constantly kept roughing it up with sandpaper. And that was to prevent the coin from sliding down the mandrel so quickly. And then you can see these measurements here were when I got a smoother mandrel, and then it created a larger size because the coin was sliding down the mandrel faster. So your hammering style might change the outcome, the mandrel you're using might change the outcome, but you can see just by adjusting this hole size, you can come out with larger or smaller ring sizes. Alright, so that was the complete process of making a basic quarter coin ring. So now get your tools and workspace prepared and get started with the first step, marking your coin.